Hi, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's Amanda again with Make Love Not War on the quest to help angry wives and their spouses. Today we have with us Andrea Pennington. Hello, Andrea. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Amanda. It's great to be here.
Let me just do the formal introduction. You are a doctor and a medical journalist and a physician and an acupuncturist. Yeah.
Yes.
And I read the Pennington Plan, your 5-step plan to achieve great health. And you've just launched a new book.
Yes. A couple of new books. One is called I Love You Me, and the other is called Time to Rise. And they're both really about how we embrace our strength and rise up as our authentic self.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your work, what your expertise is.
Well, you mentioned that I'm a doctor and acupuncturist, but I'm really not practicing like that anymore. I don't sit in an office and see patients. Now my work has really expanded into teaching on the global space. So on TV, on radio, internet, through books, and also through coaching and mentoring other people, other light workers and healers and therapists who want to share their message across the world. I'm actually personally on a mission to reach 10 million lives and help them really rise up and embrace their power and living, what I say, living orgasmically, so that we really can start to reclaim all of the sense of harmony and hope and happiness as a world society.
Just a question that popped in. Are you a Christian? Is it faith or is that just a mission?
Well, I'm really a practicing Buddhist. I grew up in a very Christian environment, but I work with all denominations. I feel like most religions really all lead back to the same place, and that's connecting with the divine that's within each of us.
Great. I practice Buddhism too.
I know.
Oh, you know, of course, yeah. But it just sounded a little faith-like or Jesus-like, so.
Little Jesus-like. No, it's like my personal mission. You know, I suffered for many years with depression, and I grew up feeling like I didn't really fit in. I felt like I really didn't even want to be alive on this planet. And it was eventually coming to realize that I was trying to live up to too many outside expectations. And I literally asked God to take my life. And it was at that moment that I sort of saw my life flash in front of me. I thought God was answering my prayer. And I had a really personal experience. So it didn't seem like Jesus or somebody in a white robe or even a Buddha figure. There was just this sense of complete love and acceptance. And that's when I really woke up to realize we're all souls. We all have this divine Buddha nature. And when we come to earth, yes, we might inherit some karma, or we go through some drama on this life stage that makes us feel like we are imperfect, or we feel like we don't deserve love. But the truth is, we really do. We are lovable at our core. And once I woke up to that, yeah, it felt like I was on a mission. I'm like, oh my goddess, people need to wake up to this. Like, we've been so programmed and even wounded by religion, or, bullied by family or outsiders, to think that we don't deserve love. And so that's where the word mission comes in. I feel like this is my dharma. This is my life purpose. It's to help people wake up to who they really are and to start living their life really in alignment with what you value most, and not necessarily what the society is pushing on you. Because I feel like that's what's really going to make us feel better personally. It's going to heal our relationships. And then we can even go out and do greater things in the world, whether that's in our job or community or the world, platform. So there you go.
It's amazing. All you very inspiring people that are really out there on your mission, you found it, all have that same story, that you kind of heard a voice, or there was this. It's just truly inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to connect with all of you and get all your advice and knowledge, and to share it with the angry wives out there. And stop making war and start making love instead.
Yes, let's make love.
Yeah, I forgot to ask. I ask all the experts here where in the world they are, because I've made a little map. So where in the world are you? You're
Today, I am in Richmond, Virginia, in the United States. But as you know, I usually live on the French Riviera. But
Okay.
today I'm here.
I have a little map. Yesterday we talked to Kula in India,
Oh,
and
wow.
today Virginia. Where is that in the United States?
So just above Florida. So go back to
I know.
the the East Coast, up Florida a little ways. Yeah.
Somewhere thereabout. Okay. But usually you reside here. So I'm going to put the needle here and I'm going to keep track of all my experts where in the world there are.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Really amazing reaching out. Okay. So to help the angry wives out there, do you have any tools, advice, any thoughts on this whole topic?
Well, the main thing for me is to understand where your anger comes from. What I noticed when I became a parent, I wasn't married, but I noticed a lot of quote unquote negative emotions came up,
Mm-hmm.
like anger and resentment. And at the time, I was working with patients who've had a whole lot of things like addiction and all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've seen seriously angry people do really crazy things. But it was interesting for me to find out what was the source of that anger. And so the first thing I would say is let's find out why you feel angry or irritable. Is it that you feel like you're not getting the respect that you want in your relationship, or you feel burdened with maybe too many responsibilities, or maybe you feel stifled, like you're not really living as fully as you want to? Because I think the advice is actually probably the same for each of them. But what I noticed in myself and in others was unless we were able to own it,
Mm-hmm.
even such a negative emotion. So I commend you for doing this because most people don't want to admit that they're angry.
But
Like,
even hate, how can you hate even your children? I mean, how can you be so obsessed with rage that you just want to hit them? I mean, where does that come from?
well, I think all of us have the potential for, you know, good and evil, or let's just say, positive or negative expressions of energy. In my way of thinking, all of our emotions are just energy in motion. And if we let our emotions flow freely and we're able to get rid of them, then we typically don't find that people act out. Most people do hurtful, mean things because of their own uh, unattended to pain. So, pain that they haven't looked at or healed. And so, if you were so angry that you're just in an outburst that you would scream or yell or hit someone, then we really need to unravel that and get back to the core of where does that anger come from? Because typically, for example, you mentioned I did acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the traditional Chinese system, they don't believe like some of us Westerners do that there are bad emotions. It's just, okay, if you have anger, there's a right for that anger to be expressed. That doesn't mean you go off hitting and smacking people. It just means that it needs to be acknowledged so that it can move. Because the problem is when that energy doesn't move, when we try to hide it or stifle it away, that's when it has the potential to erupt really violently. And so we often think, well, how could anyone hurt their child? How could someone who's bigger and more powerful hit someone or torture someone or use even emotional torture against someone? And it's generally because they haven't come from a place of true love for themselves, love for others. It doesn't even have to be romantic love or even the love of a parent. It's that respect that all of us as humans deserve love and respect and safety. And so I would ask that any angry wife really get in touch with where is that anger coming from and allow yourself to express it. Maybe you want to write it in a journal. Um, I teach meditation, and so I often ask my clients to just sit and allow those emotions, those thoughts, those feelings to come up, acknowledge them. Sometimes we find that they get stuck in the body. So people will have insomnia, or they'll have tension headaches, or they'll have, aches and pains in their body, or stomach upset, or, there could be any number of physical ailments. So I ask them to, as you're sitting there, to really get in touch with where is that energy blocked? Where is it raging in your body? Where do you feel it? Does it have a color, an intensity? because this is really sort of a mindfulness practice. You're becoming mindfully aware of the connection between your mind and your body. And as soon as you start to do that, as soon as you start to honor this energy as just a messenger, then you can start to say, okay, what is this really trying to show me? What is it really trying to tell me? And yes, you may start with the basics like, well, of course, I'm tired, I'm irritable, so-and-so is not doing their part at the house, or I'm really stressed about money, or my kids are misbehaving, or whatever. But once that idea comes up, let it come out, and then ask, okay, what is there another message? Is there a deeper message that this feeling or emotion is trying to communicate? And sit with that for a moment. Because what I found, especially with my patients who had eating disorders or addictions, is they felt so uncomfortable with some of these emotions that they would do anything to not feel it. So they would eat, or they would drink alcohol, or they would shop, or some other thing to just kind of quiet down that pain. It can be a little scary at first. And so sometimes you may want to do this with a therapist, but over time, as you allow these emotions to come up and you name them, you locate them in the body, get a sense for their feeling, their texture, their color, their intensity, and their message, little by little, you become removed or detached. And then you start to recognize this emotion and this pain is not me. So all the judgment that we would normally have about, oh my God, I'm such a bad mom, or I'm such a bad person, I can't believe I'm so spiritual, and yet I'm thinking these hateful thoughts, or I don't know about you, but I've been there. I judged myself so harshly for feeling all of these negative things in my mind. I felt like I was not a spiritual person. But when we start to really recognize that it's just energy, it's just a messenger, then you start to realize, well, if I'm not this emotion, if I'm not this pain, who am I? Because at your core, if you really start to recognize that you are a soul living in a human body,
With human
that's the with human emotions, but that's your first step to power. Because if you collapse your identity and think, I'm just this limited little human being and I can't do anything, and I'm woe is me, I'm a victim, then you'll continue to have experiences of being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you recognize that you're the awareness, you're the consciousness that sees and observes these things, it's your first step to power. Now, I know that's like super advanced, like mindfulness practice, but that's the first step, is really to allow these things to come up, be expressed, because then over time you will become less judgmental. And that's kind of one of the tenets of mindfulness. It's becoming that non-judgmental awareness, or that witness. And then over time, you can start to tap into things like compassion. And I know this is a really challenging one to do when we're angry, but learning to practice compassion. And one of the things that I will invite our viewers to check out is our compassion meditation series. Totally free, 21 days of really just bathing in the positive energy of compassion. Mm-hmm. Because that's really the opposite of anger. Mm-hmm. Anger is where we want to lash out. We think this is wrong, this is bad, this shouldn't be happening. It's this angry outburst. And compassion is just the opposite. It's the acceptance. It doesn't mean you tolerate negative treatment from someone else, but it's the acceptance that this human that may be mistreating us, or even if I'm mistreating myself, I recognize, boy, I'm really having a hard time in this little human life of mine. And it's that desire and that wish to send ourselves warmth and the tenderness that we would give to, say, a tiny child who's having a bad day. So that's where I would start.
Mm-hmm. Very good points. Makes total sense. You mentioned we should locate the feeling in our body. Do you also think we should try to locate it in our heart? Like, okay, if I feel this rejected by my husband, maybe is it located somewhere in my, general feeling in my heart of not being loved? Just kind of try to pin it down to something that's been going.
It could be something metaphysical, like the heart space. It could be a feeling in the heart or in the solar plexus. It could be anywhere. Yes, the answer to your question is yes.
Yeah, there's a difference to that, actually being able to locate it in the body, because that's your maybe your brain thinking, okay, why do I feel this sad? And then it's still the brain kind of resonating there. Good point. Can't wait to try that out. Wow, good stuff. It really makes a lot of sense. It does.
I hope so. I know it's kind of nebulous, but once you kind of get into the habit of doing it, it's really freeing.
Very good. Anything else on the topic generally? How to make love, not war? Specifically for what about the spouses? Any advice for them if they have this like explosive wife? Because I think in Denmark the power has shifted, so it's like the females, not for long, but they really have the powers. You see all these men, afraid of the women and just like they need to man up and do something, but of course in a constructive way. Any advice? Any other guys out there?
I think also it's bringing that awareness to recognizing that we are in a shift. We're in a shift within the global consciousness. So women have been suppressed. This feminine energy has been suppressed for well over a century.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that we're seeing that the woman is on the rise, it can feel a little emasculating for some men, because now women are able to earn as much, they're able to do as much. And in the West, maybe not so much in Denmark, but definitely in America, for example, we saw that as women, after the war, they were like, oh, I can do what a man can do. I can do this. We in America started to become more masculine to prove that we could do stuff as well as men. We could handle so much. And we lost some of our feminine tenderness and love and even the sensuality of a woman. And so we see the pendulum swinging back. Like women are learning now that to be a woman doesn't mean we are weak. It doesn't mean that we're overly emotional. So if we can just recognize that things are just shifting to a new balance, that I think that can somehow take away the edge of feeling like I've lost my power as a man. It's like, no, you haven't really lost it. But women are just finding their way. And yes, some women have gone a little too far and they're going to come back, because I think ultimately we need to be equal partners in life.
Yeah.
And some men will start to experience more of their feminine energy. Again, with the Chinese system, we look at yin and yang, these polarities in energy. It doesn't mean you're not masculine. It's just a matter of really accepting that we all have these qualities. So I would say for the man to just recognize, okay, things are shifting. We're finding our new balance here, and honor your wife as she's going through these somewhat challenging times as a woman, to redefine. We're literally redefining what it means to be feminine.
Yeah.
And that's never an easy process for anyone.
That brings me to another question. Do you think there's a reason some wives get so angry?
Well, I think some of the ones that I mentioned before is not feeling like they've had the right to express themselves.
Yeah.
I think whatever that is, whatever that need that they had, whether it was a need for expression, a need to be understood, a need to be loved unconditionally. Sometimes it's just a need for sleep or need for sex. We are holistic beings. Like, we need all of our needs to be met. They can't be met all the time, maybe in perfect balance, but it's generally the sign of a need that is not being met.
That brings me to my other question. I saw you made a YouTube video about why women should orgasm at least 3 weeks. Oh, not 3 weeks, a very long time, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see the video. Could you explain to the listeners what your point is in that video?
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed is when a woman is fully owning her sensuality and has the experience of orgasm, it's a sign that everything is kind of working.
Mm-hmm.
And I say everything, meaning also inside of the body. So at the time that these videos started going viral, I was on a TV show and I was explaining that if a woman had diabetes, for example, or high blood pressure, that can turn down the libido. And it can also decrease her sensuality and her ability to experience orgasm. And so at the time, what I recognized, if I could ask a patient, how many times do you experience orgasm in a week? And if it wasn't a minimum of that 3, then we could start to investigate, is there something going on internally with her hormones, with her blood pressure, with her blood sugar level, with any other health challenges? Is it in her mind? Is she too stressed? Is she overwhelmed? Does she feel like she doesn't deserve pleasure? Because the reality is, orgasm actually happens in the brain. A lot of people think orgasm happens in the genitals, but that's not true. Orgasm actually happens in the brain. And so if your brain is telling you, we can't focus on pleasure, we have the laundry to do, we have to go pick up the kids. If we have a to-do list running in our head, most women find that it's much more difficult to experience orgasm. If we're preoccupied with the environment or mad at our partner, or we don't feel like we should take so much time for ourselves, that's going to decrease the brain's sensitivity, which means it's harder to get aroused, it's harder to achieve orgasm. So I recommend that women check in and say, well, how often am I experiencing orgasm? And if I'm not getting my 3 a week, and that's just a minimum, if you're not getting at least 3 a week, then you need to start investigating to see what's the reason.
And it's definitely a very effective way to start making love in that physical sense and not war, because you do not have the same amount of fights if you make love. And sometimes, or most of the times, you fight because you want to be making love. So instead of love, you end up fighting. And that's why I made this whole journey or this show, because why do we choose to fight when we only fight because we want to make love? Why don't we just jump into bed and make love so we don't fight? I mean, it's stupid, really. That was the whole puzzle. But that's just the physical part. There are many ways, of making love. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Great point. Good. Anything else for the listeners before you move on with your busy schedule, your book launch? And you didn't even tell us about your new book.
Yeah, well, this is the new book, I Love You, Me.
Yeah, I love the title.
Thank you. Well, I found that these were the hardest 4 words to say.
Okay.
When I was at that rock bottom of my depression, being able to look into the mirror and say to myself, I love you, me. And we used to use this as a meditation for our clients. And the process of just really looking deep within and learning to love yourself was challenging for me personally. But over time, I discovered that there was really 5 steps or 5 phases you could go through to really learn who you are, to love who you are, and then to start living who you really are. And so that's what I put into my new book, I Love You, Me. It's got this 5-step cornerstone process. And at the moment, anybody who purchases the book, whether the print book or the Kindle, I have a bunch of free gifts to support you on your journey to really learning how to love yourself again.
Another 5 great steps to follow.
I know. Most people in Europe, they make fun of me. They're like, you Americans and your steps. But I tend to get these downloads, and that's how it comes to me. 5 steps.
Yeah, I like them. Good. Thank you so much, Andrea. And there will be a link for your free gift in the email, so check that out. I'm on the back for all these angry wives. You have to choose at least one expert out of the 24 and follow their program. So you guys choose Andreas if you want to do the 21 days journey. That sounds great and something doable, and you don't have to go as deep and you just sit and relax kind of and feel yourself for 21 days. I'd definitely go for that one. And remember, you have to choose one. So you make love, not war. Thank you so much. Have a great day over there on the East Coast. Thank you.
Thank you. And you as well. And just thank you again for just putting this together. I honor you for that.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.